Hey guys, Boss and Ramos, and this Sunday the Miami Dolphins will be hosting the Las Vegas Raiders at Hard Rock Stadium, November 17th, 1 o'clock p.m. Eastern. Game will be broadcasted on CBS, so check your local listings. But, there may be some other games that may be drawing your interest, like in the same window, like the Baltimore Ravens and the Pittsburgh Steelers. I don't blame you. You have two teams who are well below 500. Raiders in one hand is 2-7, Dolphins in the other 3-6. So not great season so far for either team by the measures of success, and that is basically being above 500. Now, with that being said, let's get into this week's game preview. Yes, like I said, the Dolphins and the Raiders both have undesirable records so far in this season. One team kind of not, playing to the standard, and that's the Raiders standard of, just commitment to excellence and just go out there and be great. This is a bad year for the Raiders. It's just no way around it. You have a lot of turmoil in that organization, and being forced to trade away your star receiver halfway through the season, not optimal. But he wanted out. It's typically how today's day and age of players go about their business. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the Miami Dolphins, who have a similar record, but are aspiring to make the postseason somehow, some way. And, it's going to be a tough run for this Miami Dolphins team, but it could be possible. They just need to chip away at it one game at a time, and this is the next game that's ahead of them. So let's not overlook this Las Vegas Raiders team. Now, part of the game preview, let's talk about the gambling lines. The Dolphins are favored by a touchdown here at -7. Over-under set at 43.5, and then the Dolphins are favored in terms of money line by -360. Raiders on the other end +280. And then according to ESPN's matchup predictor, the Dolphins are favored to win at 63.1% to the Las Vegas Raiders 36.7%. Other game news is game time weather is going to be 81 degrees with mostly sun, partly cloudy. So if you're going to go to the game, just make sure to prepare properly. And let's talk about some standings. Currently, the Raiders are dead last in division at 2-7, and then everyone else is at 500 or better. The Broncos are at 5-5. Chargers are at 6-3, and Kansas City obviously is still undefeated up to this point. Now, Kansas City has a big time matchup against the Buffalo Bills, who are 8-2, leading the AFC East. But the rest of the AFC East is a dumpster fire. Dolphins are in second place at 3-6, but they're not far ahead of third and fourth place in this division. At 3-7, you have the New York Jets and the New England Patriots. As far as that pregame stuff goes, that's pretty much it. Let's talk about injuries. Big news on injuries on both fronts. Let's start with the Raiders. They are the away team. So we have Michael Mayer, tight end. He is out with some personal issues. Kobe Whitehair, offensive guard. He is out. So is Andre James, center, and Nate Hobbs, cornerback. Those guys are listed as out with no real description. Harrison Bryant, tight end, is out with an ankle injury. Colton Miller, offensive tackle, is listed as questionable for ankle injury. And then this is as far as back I'm going to go. These next two guys is Aiden O'Connell, quarterback. He's on injured reserve with a thumb injury. And then Christian Wilkins, defensive tackle, former Miami Dolphin, is on injured reserve with a foot injury. Aside from that, no major other injuries for this Raiders team past that timeline. That's been within the last month. Now, for the Miami Dolphins, let's talk about some more recent injuries, and that's Alec Ingold, fullback. He is listed as questionable with a calf injury. Kendall Fuller is confirmed out with a concussion. Cornerback Kendall Fuller. New addition to the injury chart is Jalen Ramsey, cornerback. He's listed as questionable. Isaiah Wynn, offensive tackle, is listed as out with a quadriceps/knee injury. He was on IR to start the season. Nice to see him finally get off of it. Hopefully he can get back into this lineup soon because the Dolphins did take a hit, and that was putting Austin Jackson on IR. He has a knee-ending surgery for his season, and season-ending knee injury that requires surgery. It's not a good spot for the Dolphins there. Tanner Conner, tight end, is on injury reserve with a knee injury. Teron Armstead, offensive tackle, is listed as questionable. Robert Jones, guard, is listed as questionable for knee injury. And then Patrick Morris, safety, is still on IR. And Bradley Chubb, linebacker, is still listed as out. So let's see. I think if the Dolphins find a way to get a win or two in the next couple of games, we may see Bradley Chubb out on the field for the Dolphins. We'll just have to wait and see. So really quick, I just want to go over the standings as the AFC playoff picture looks right now. The Chiefs are in firm control with a 9-0 record, and then following them is the Buffalo Bills at 8-2, Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-2, and then the Houston Texans at 6-4. Those are all your divisional leaders. Then in the wild card spots, we have the Baltimore Ravens at 7-3. Los Angeles Chargers at 6-3, and the Denver Broncos at 5-5. And that rounds out the playoff picture. Teams on the outside looking in include the 4-6 Indianapolis Colts, 4-6 Cincinnati Bengals, 3-6 Miami Dolphins, 3-7 New York Jets. And then I'll pretty much cut it off there because everyone else I'm not really expecting to make any type of waves in terms of playoff push. So let's see what happens there. Now, it's not an easy game ahead of the Dolphins. The Raiders are a team that, they should not take lightly, and if they do, they may face the repercussions. They have beaten teams like the Ravens and the Browns. The Ravens game was still when they had Devontae Adams on the field, and he was able to make some big-time plays in that game. They've lost kind of that big play threat, and they've been struggling to even score over 20 points, even in some type of blowout type of games. They've still been struggling to score 20 or more points. So that is going to be a big emphasis for this Miami Dolphins offense. Is just to put up points as quick as possible, as early as possible, and really separate yourself from this Las Vegas Raiders team, because the Dolphins haven't had much success in terms of one, scoring, two, just separating themselves. Every game pretty much has been almost a one-possession game, aside from the first 3 games of the year. 2 of them were not one-possession games. And then pretty much, it's been a rough season for the Dolphins team, especially when Tua is out with his concussion. I will say that since he's come back, the Dolphins have been consistently been able to score about 20 or more points, and the defense is not going to allow that many points if they continue to play the way they did against the Rams on Monday Night Football. Now, with that being said, let's talk about the Dolphins' key to victory, and there's obviously going to be 3 of them. So last week, I wanted to really harp on the receivers and getting Hill and Waddle, back into the swing of things, and just having some type of passing efficiency and just chunk yardage for the Dolphins, because you wouldn't believe through 11 weeks of the season, Tyreek Hill is the Dolphins' leading receiver, but hold on, with 462 total yards. That is a far cry for help. Jalen Waddle shortly behind them at 367. So by no measure are the Dolphins having a successful season in terms of wide receiver production. That everything can just be pointed back towards the fact that Tua has not been healthy the whole season. I think if he's healthy the whole season, talking a whole different ballgame for this Dolphins receiving core. But that's neither here or there. It happened, and the Dolphins just got to get past that. So, last week, I said, let's get the receivers going. This week, I'm going to say get the running backs going. Last week was a pitiful game in terms of running the ball, and especially with a few of these offensive line injuries. You want to get these offensive linemen who are new to the lineup acclimated in terms of being efficient on the field, and making the proper blocks, and following the scheme as intended. So this is one of those games that I'm fully intending on the Dolphins to get Achane, Mostert, and Jalen Wright all in the mix and being pivotal pieces to this Dolphins offensive attack. So last week, get Waddle and Hill the ball. This week, get Achane, Mostert, and Wright all the ball, and let's just see what happens. I think they're going to struggle a bit to contain that, especially they don't have their big defensive tackle in Christian Wilkins. Shout out to former Finn. But aside from that, let's get on to the defensive side of the ball, and that is pressuring Gardner Minshew. Minshew has historically struggled when teams are putting a decent amount of pressure on him. So I think if the Dolphins are able to a lot, a good amount of pressure on Minshew, it can make a big difference in terms of, you know, stalling that Raiders offensive attack. Because the last thing you want for this Dolphins team to do is let the Raiders into this game, and the Dolphins need to find a way to get in and out of this game as quick as possible and just get as many points on the board and limit, obviously, the Raiders' offensive attack. So, by getting to Gardner Minshew is a big key part of stopping that offense. Because aside from that, they're going to lean heavily on their running game, and that would be the next key of victory to victory. And that is stopping the running attack. The Raiders, aren't the top team in offense or just anything, honestly. But, every NFL team has their guys, and guys can step up at any moment. But they're not having a massive rushing season. So far, only having 692 yards on the ground. They're not really doing so good on the passing attack either. So I definitely would say that you want to attack, whether it's going to be Alexander Madison, Zamir White, or Amir Abdullah, limit their rushing attack and stopping that ground game, because you're already putting pressure on Gardner Minshew. Now let's kill that running game and pretty much dominate that time of possession. And that's exactly where I'm going with this. It's been milk the clock, be very good with the running backs for the Dolphins. Obviously, get to the quarterback, limit their passing attack, and then 3, stopping the Raiders' run, so you can just flip the ball and dominate time of possession. I don't think the Dolphins should have too much trouble if they kind of stick to these things. And obviously, you want to get Tua and the passing game going, but I think it's way more important to ease a lot of these offensive linemen into this lineup, because with a couple of these injuries, it's not going to be a great system of guys coming in and out of that lineup. So, that being said, make it easy for them, get them moving forward and not having to go back so much for pass protection. Instead, let them run block, and I think we can get this offensive line kind of gelled up as soon as possible, because the road's going to get a little bumpy soon, and this is just one of those games in the way, and the Dolphins just got to get through it with limited injuries, and I think this is how they go about it. Now, that being said, it's not going to be an easy game, but I'm fully expecting the Dolphins to come out on top, and it'll be nothing short of a disappointment if they don't. So with that being said, that concludes this game preview. I will also add on the fact that the Dolphins made some moves. There have been a couple guys, getting released from teams, and the Dolphins didn't shy away from that. So during this week, the Miami Dolphins claimed Tyrell Dodson, linebacker from the Seattle Seahawks, and in doing so, they waived linebacker David Long Jr. and gave him his old number. Interesting turn of events there. It's kind of shocked that Dodson got released from the Seahawks, but I think this is a really good, solid pickup for the linebacking core for the Miami Dolphins. It was just a bit of a shock that David Long was one of the guys to go, but I will say that Jordan Brooks has filled into that role very well of being the lead linebacker. I think it's just funny, another linebacker from Seattle, because Jordan Brooks is another one. But yeah, that pretty much concludes this game preview. I hope you guys enjoyed it. It's going to be a quick one. I'm not feeling too well. And last but not least, want to inform you guys on the vlog. Vlog will be coming out soon. I'm really hoping I can get it out before Sunday's match, which I'm fully intending on releasing it before then. Just finishing touches right now and crossing the T's and dotting the I's. Hope you guys enjoyed this one.